The aroma of garlic and ginger filled the kitchen of Golden Dynasty as I put the finishing touches on my latest creation, a fusion dish that blended traditional Chinese techniques with modern California flavors. The lunch rush had just ended, and I was experimenting with new recipes as I had done every afternoon for the past 5 years. "What are you doing to my father's recipes now?" I looked up to find my father-in-law, George Liu, standing in the kitchen doorway, his face twisted in disapproval. Behind him, my husband Michael shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. My name is Sarah Chen, and until that moment, I was the head chef at Golden Dynasty, San Francisco's oldest Chinese restaurant. For 5 generations, the Liu family had served traditional Cantonese cuisine to loyal customers. But times were changing, and so were people's tastes. "Just trying something new," I replied, plating the dish, pan-seared sea bass with a honey ginger glaze, served on a bed of crispy rice and seasonal vegetables. "The regulars have been asking for lighter options." George's frown deepened as he approached the counter. "Lighter options? We are a traditional Chinese restaurant, not some trendy fusion place." I had heard this argument many times over the past year. Ever since I had started introducing new specials to the menu, George had fought every change. Never mind that our revenue had increased by 40% since I took over the kitchen. Never mind that food critics had started taking notice of our innovative take on classic cuisine. "The customers love it," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Last week's special sold out every night." "Tourists," George scoffed. "Not real customers. Not the families who have been coming here for generations." I thought about Mrs. Zhang, 82 years old and a Golden Dynasty regular for 6 decades, who had declared my black pepper crab the best thing she'd eaten in years. About Mr. Chen from the bank down the street, who now brought business clients here instead of to the fancy places downtown. "Actually," I started to say, but George cut me off with a wave of his hand. "Enough. This ends now." He pulled a stack of papers from his jacket. "The board has made a decision." My heart sank as I recognized the letterhead of the family corporation that owned Golden Dynasty. Michael finally spoke up, his voice weak. "Dad, maybe we should discuss this first." "There's nothing to discuss," George snapped. "The board, your uncles and I, have voted. Sarah's contract as head chef is terminated, effective immediately." The kitchen fell silent. Even the usual clatter of dishes from the prep area ceased as the staff held their breath. "You're firing me?" I asked, though I had seen this coming for months. The emergency board meetings I wasn't invited to. The whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the room. The way George had been training his nephew Jason in restaurant management, despite Jason's complete lack of culinary experience. "We're going back to our roots," George declared. "Traditional menu, traditional methods. Jason will take over as head chef. He has studied our family recipes." "Jason can barely make fried rice," I protested. "He's never worked in a professional kitchen." "He is family," George emphasized the word, making it clear that after 7 years of marriage to his son, I still wasn't considered part of the Liu clan. "He understands our heritage." I looked at Michael, silently pleading for support. We had met in culinary school, bonded over our shared passion for pushing culinary boundaries. He had been the one to convince me to take the job at Golden Dynasty, promising that together we would bring the restaurant into the modern era. But Michael just stared at the floor, shoulders slumped in defeat. "You have until the end of the day to clear out your things," George continued. "The separation agreement includes 6 months' salary and a non-compete clause. You are not to work in any Chinese restaurant within 50 miles for the next 2 years." I picked up the papers with trembling hands. 5 years of dedication, of modernizing their outdated systems, of building relationships with local suppliers, of creating new dishes that honored tradition while embracing innovation, all dismissed with a corporate directive. "Fine," I said quietly, untying my apron. "I'll have my lawyer review these." As I walked to my office, no, Jason's office now, I heard George instructing the kitchen staff to throw out any non-traditional ingredients. The special herbs I had been growing in the rooftop garden, the premium seafood I had arranged to have delivered fresh daily, the artisanal sauces I had developed over countless late nights of experimentation. What George didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had seen this coming. The real magic of Golden Dynasty's recent success wasn't just in the new recipes. It was in the subtle improvements I had made to their traditional dishes. the secret ingredient combinations that had transformed good food into extraordinary food, the techniques I had developed through years of study and practice. And I had documented everything. In my office, I opened my laptop and checked my encrypted cloud storage. Every recipe, every modification, every technique, all carefully recorded and legally protected as my intellectual property. The separation agreement might prevent me from working in a Chinese restaurant, but it said nothing about starting my own fusion restaurant. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Lisa, who also happened to be a successful restaurant investor, heard what happened. Time to execute Plan B. 6 months ago, when I first noticed the warning signs at Golden Dynasty, Lisa and I had started putting together a backup plan. A business proposal for a modern Asian fusion restaurant. A location already scouted, ironically just 2 blocks from Golden Dynasty. A team of talented young chefs eager to break free from traditional constraints. Yes, I texted back, it's time. As I packed my personal belongings, I could hear Jason in the kitchen, already barking orders at the staff. Poor Alice, our sous chef who had been with me since the beginning, looked ready to cry as she watched him mishandle her carefully organized prep station. Sarah? Michael appeared in the doorway. I tried to change their minds. But not hard enough. I finished for him. We both knew he could have stopped this. As the legal heir to Golden Dynasty, his vote carried weight, but standing up to his father had never been his strong suit. What will you do? He asked softly. I thought about the business plan saved on my laptop, about the investors Lisa had lined up, about the loyal customers who kept asking for my modern interpretations of classic dishes. You'll see, I replied, picking up my box of belongings. Everyone will see. That night, as I sat in my home office reviewing the separation agreement, my phone lit up with messages from Golden Dynasty staff members. Alice and 3 other key kitchen staff had quit in protest. Our top servers were updating their resumes. Even Mr. Wu, the elderly dim sum master who had worked there for 40 years, had told George he would retire rather than watch his beloved restaurant go backward. I opened my recipe files and began to plan. George thought he was preserving tradition by firing me. What he didn't realize was that he had just freed me to create something entirely new, something that would honor the past while embracing the future. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. The best revenge is not to destroy what others have built, but to build something better yourself. It was time to start building. 3 months after my dismissal from Golden Dynasty, I stood in an empty restaurant space 2 blocks away, surrounded by construction workers and design plans. The large windows offered a perfect view of the bustling San Francisco street, and in the distance I could just make out the golden sign of my former workplace. The contractors say we can open in 6 weeks, Lisa said, reviewing the timeline on her tablet. The kitchen equipment arrives next week. I nodded, already envisioning how everything would look. The open kitchen concept would let diners watch their food being prepared. The modern decor would blend Asian influences with contemporary design. And the menu would be everything George Liu had feared and more. Have you decided on a name? Lisa asked. Fusion, I replied simply, because that's exactly what we are, a fusion of tradition and innovation, East and West, old and new. My phone buzzed with a text from Alice, my former sous chef and now partner in the new venture. You need to see this. She attached a photo of Golden Dynasty's latest Yelp reviews. Food isn't the same anymore. Used to be our favorite place. Bland and uninspired. Since my departure, Golden Dynasty's ratings had been steadily declining. Jason's traditional menu had stripped away not just my fusion dishes, but all the subtle improvements I had made to their classic recipes. The secret techniques that had made their dim sum extraordinary. The special ingredient combinations that had elevated their sauces, all gone. Their loss is our gain, Lisa commented, reading over my shoulder. Half their kitchen staff is now with us, and according to my sources, their revenue is down 30% from last quarter. I thought about Michael, who had left 3 increasingly apologetic voicemails this week. About George, who still believed that tradition alone would save his restaurant. About the customers who kept asking local food bloggers where they could find that innovative chef who used to be at Golden Dynasty. They were about to get their answer. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Kitchen equipment was installed and tested. Staff was trained in my techniques. Marketing materials were designed, emphasizing our concept of heritage reimagined. Every detail was carefully planned to create something unique in San Francisco's competitive restaurant scene. 1 week before opening, I received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Zhang, I exclaimed, finding the elderly woman peering through our windows. She had been one of Golden Dynasty's most loyal customers for over 60 years. Ah, Sarah, she smiled warmly. I've been watching this place take shape. Golden Dynasty isn't the same without you. That new chef, he doesn't understand the soul of the food. I invited her in for a tour, showing her our progress. When we reached the kitchen, I offered to make her my new version of her favorite dish, black pepper crab with a twist. As she tasted it, tears formed in her eyes. This is what food should be, respectful of tradition but not imprisoned by it. When do you open? Next Friday, I replied. Would you like to be our first guest? She patted my hand. I'll be here, and I'm bringing friends. Word spread quickly through San Francisco's Chinese community. By opening day, our reservation list was full for the next 3 months. Food critics and bloggers had caught wind of the story. The innovative chef fired for daring to update a traditional menu, now opening her own place. At 5 p.m. sharp, I watched from the kitchen as Mrs. Zhang cut the ceremonial ribbon. The line of waiting customers stretched around the block. Ready? Alice asked, her kitchen team poised for action. I took a deep breath, remembering all the nights I had spent perfecting these recipes, all the experiments, the failures, the successes, all leading to this moment. Ready, I confirmed. The first service was flawless. Every dish that left the kitchen was a perfect execution of my vision. Traditional techniques and flavors transformed into something new and exciting. The dining room hummed with appreciation, cameras flashing as guests documented their meals for social media. Around 8 p.m., Michael appeared at the kitchen door. Sarah, he said softly, this is incredible. I continued plating a dish, not looking up. How's Golden Dynasty? Struggling, he admitted. Dad won't admit it, but we've lost half our regular customers. Jason, he doesn't have your touch. Even the traditional dishes don't taste right anymore. They're missing the secret ingredients, I replied. The ones your father called unnecessary innovations. Michael stepped closer. Come back. Dad will apologize. We can work something out. Mr. Liu? One of my servers interrupted. There's someone here to see you. I followed Michael's gaze to find George Liu himself standing in our dining room, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Around him, happy diners enjoyed my modern interpretations of classic dishes, the very concept he had rejected. What is this? He demanded as I approached. You stole our recipes. Several nearby customers turned to watch. No, Mr. Liu, I replied calmly. Every dish here is my own creation. Inspired by tradition, yes, but developed through years of experimentation and innovation. The very things you dismissed. But the flavors are achieved through techniques I developed. The same techniques you called unnecessary and disrespectful. I gestured to the busy dining room. It seems the customers disagree. As if to emphasize my point, a food critic at a nearby table called out, Chef Chen, this black pepper crab is extraordinary, a perfect blend of traditional and modern flavors. George's face reddened as he recognized more Golden Dynasty regulars among our customers. This is why our business is suffering. You're stealing our customers. No, I corrected him. Your customers are choosing to follow the food they love. The food you rejected because it wasn't traditional enough. Mrs. Zhang chose that moment to approach. George Liu, she said firmly, I have eaten at Golden Dynasty for 60 years. But what Sarah creates here, this is the future of our cuisine. Food must evolve, just as we must evolve. 1 month later, Fusion was the hottest restaurant in San Francisco. Food critics raved about our revolutionary approach to Asian cuisine. Celebrities requested private bookings. Even other chefs came to study our techniques. Meanwhile, Golden Dynasty's business continued to decline. Jason had quit, unable to handle the pressure. Michael finally stood up to his father, demanding changes. Then came the final blow, the San Francisco Chronicle's annual restaurant awards. Fusion won Best New Restaurant and Chef of the Year. The article specifically praised our ability to honor tradition while fearlessly embracing innovation. The morning after the awards, I arrived at the restaurant to find George waiting. You were right, he said simply. I was so focused on preserving the past that I couldn't see the future. I waited, wondering where this was going. Golden Dynasty is dying, he continued. Our customers want more than just tradition. They want what you create. He paused. Would you consider a partnership? Your innovation, our history. I thought about it for a moment. No, I replied gently. But I will teach you. And so twice a week, I began teaching cooking classes at Golden Dynasty. Not just my modern techniques, but the fundamental skills that made both traditional and fusion cuisine extraordinary. Young chefs from both restaurants attended, learning to respect the past while embracing the future. Fusion continued to thrive, expanding to multiple locations across California. Each restaurant maintained my standards of innovation while respecting traditional techniques. We even started a culinary program, teaching aspiring chefs how to bridge the gap between old and new. Michael eventually left Golden Dynasty to join my restaurant group as operations manager. George retired, finally accepting that change was not just inevitable but necessary. And Mrs. Zhang proudly told anyone who would listen how she had been Fusion's first customer. Last week, a young chef asked me the secret to my success. The secret ingredient, I told her, isn't in the food. It's in understanding that tradition and innovation aren't enemies, they're partners in a dance that keeps moving forward. I keep a framed photo in my office, the original Golden Dynasty kitchen where I started. It reminds me that sometimes being fired is just the push you need to build something better. As for revenge, the best revenge wasn't in watching Golden Dynasty struggle or seeing George admit he was wrong. It was in creating something new, something that honored the past while embracing the future, something that proved that innovation doesn't destroy tradition, it keeps it alive. Today, both Fusion and Golden Dynasty thrive, each in its own way. And every time I create a new dish, I think about what my grandmother said about building something better. Because sometimes the secret ingredient isn't a spice or a technique. Sometimes it's the courage to take what you've learned and transform it into something entirely new, something that makes people see tradition in a different light, something that proves that the best way to preserve the past is to help it grow into the future. And that's a recipe for success that never fails.